This is a chance that we are giving anybody and everybody the opportunity to ask those questions that have been on their minds for a long time and can't seem to find the answer. So maybe within our group, we will find the answers. We have a panel today with us that's going to start off with helping answer questions. And then after they're done, it's going to be open for anybody to ask away. During the registration process, we had a number of people took up the opportunity to ask questions ahead of time. So those will be answered by our different panel members. And then after those are all done, if you have anything to add to some of those answers, those questions, or you have new questions, and if you have the answer to those new questions, we're just going to try to learn about everything here. So I think that what we'll do is we'll get started. Judy is going to take the part of Tom Burt right now, and she'll start with the first questions, and we'll go to the rest of the panel.
And some of Tom's answers and Bill's and Bob G's have website addresses with them. All of these questions will be in the Q&A that I end up sending everybody as follow-up material. So Jason asked, new Windows 11 PC, what's the best way to set it up and transfer data from Windows 10? Tom said, he's at his board meeting. He'll be here a little after 10 o'clock. I strongly recommend any new Win 11 PC laptop or desktop include a solid state drive to use as a C drive. If you're planning on storing a lot of data and especially large media files, you will also want a large secondary hard disk drive. Assuming that both the new and the old PCs are connected to your in-house LAN and are configured to be the same work group, you can copy data files from one to the other. There's a free product called EasyUs that claims to be able to migrate all your data, settings, and applications from the old PC to the new. And I know Bill James is gonna have something to add to that question when I'm finished. He had another question. He said, how do I add a user and give them access to Office and other software already installed? Should I get them a separate Windows account? Tom said, go to settings account.
Judy, you're muted.
Yeah.
I got muted with everybody.
Yeah, nope, just with you, because when somebody else comes into the room, it drops down and changes it. So sorry.
Oh, well, you pulled them in the waiting room.
I did, but somebody else let them in before me.
Add a family member, and the instructions for that are going to be in the Q&A. Alvin says, I'm running Windows 10 and have an HD partition I named Z as in zebra. I used to name mine X as in X-ray. On occasion, the partition drive letter is lost. I have to go into disk management and rename the now unnamed partition to access it. Why does the OS lose this partition, and how can I find why that's happening? Tom said, I can't say for sure what's causing your problem. I have seen cases where a partition's assigned drive letter may match the default drive letter assigned to a USB or CD drive socket. When a USB flash drive is plugged in, that default drive letter becomes active and covers up the other device that had the same drive letter. The name of a drive is actually the value of the label field of a drive's participation. I had a participation preschool. Partition table, it doesn't have to be a letter. My E drive label is E drive. Is possible Windows is getting confused. Also, Z is normally the first default drive letter chosen when you map in a share on another PC in your in-house LAN. My answer would be try a different letter. Dave, can I use my Windows 10 license for a clean install of Windows 11? Tom says, I haven't tried that myself, but others have reported that you can activate a clean install of Windows 11 using a Win10 product key. I installed Win 10 Pro in a VMware virtual machine and activated with an unused Windows 8.1 product key. I then did a clean install from setup media of Windows 11 Pro over that Windows 10 installation. I don't have the activation key. I said my Win 11 activation state settings system and about in that VM currently shows as active. Steve asks, I understand there's a hardware change requirement for Windows 11. What is it and why do we need to do it to make Windows 11 work correctly? Tom says there are endless articles about this on the web, and he provided a link to the official Microsoft answer. Over to Bill.
Okay. I personally, if I was going to use a upgrade to Windows 11, I would treat it just as another Windows update. I wouldn't go through the hassle of trying to reinstall it or do any of that because it's really not necessary. If you're buying a new PC and you'll have Windows 11 already installed, and it depends on how you have used your Microsoft account. If you use it and have it properly configured, if you enter your Microsoft account into your new PC, most of your settings and other things will download to that machine. The only thing that you probably will have to do is that if you have some particular software that you have installed in the past, you may have to reinstall that. But other than that, your new PC will appear just like the one that you replaced. I've done that from experience because I have actually 3 new PCs, and I just entered my Microsoft account and all my data files and everything were there. You're muted, Judy. What are you asking?
I noticed Bob G nodding his head, going, yes, he totally agrees with you. And you have told me that so many times after it has taken me endless hours to move my stuff from one to another.
I haven't done that in years. But, you know, everyone has a method, but the easiest one for me is just enter my Microsoft account and everything seems to be in place.
And your answers to your questions are?
All right. The questions that I received was, let me make sure I get this. Dave asked how to avoid Bing when using Edge. I enter the correct URL, but Bing interferes. My response is, I'm assuming you're referring to Bing as the search engine. If you want to use Google, Yahoo, or DuckDuckGo, change your default search engine by going to the settings in Edge, Privacy, Search and Services, and then under Services, scroll down to Address and Search and change the default to the search engine of your preference. Tim asks, I'm planning to buy a new laptop. Should I include Windows 11 or Windows 10 be sufficient for everyday computing? My answer was I would purchase a new laptop with Windows 11. In my opinion, it's useless to have Windows 10 installed on that machine because it'll continue to nag you to install or update to Windows 11. And you'll find Windows 11 easy to use and you'll be current.
And my counter to that is I have a friend who's not that tech aware and she needs a new PC, and I've let her know that she needs to buy a Windows 10. Mainly because it will be extremely difficult for her to learn where everything is in the new browser, and I mean in the new OS. And for her sake and mine, she's going to stay with the Windows 10 till 2025.
Okay. The other one, Tiny asks, since installing Windows 11, I've had a problem with battery draining while computing, while the computer is sleeping. Is there a cure? And my answer was, and I researched this, you can easily get rid of the problem if you enable the battery saving option, which I have seen in my laptops. Adjust the power plan to one of the most efficient ways to stop Windows 11 battery from rapidly draining. And since certain apps can consume a lot of battery, you should prevent unnecessary ones from running in the background. You'll find the above and more information how to fix Windows 11 battery drain issues in a Windows report, and that URL will be included in the follow-up material. Jay asks, should we always update automatically or first find out if it has created issues and wait until they are resolved? My computers have been set to update automatically. My answer was, I use automatic update and allow Windows Update to install the updates. If there's an issue, Microsoft will issue a fix within days of the identified problem. Remember that Microsoft supports millions of PCs, and all the problems identified may not be pertinent to your particular unit. Dorothy asks, how do you transfer Windows 10 mail app email from a PC laptop to a new device? My answer to that is just log on with the same user ID and password that you are using for the Windows mail on your other device, and your mail will sync with the new device. I think the other one, is it possible to close permanently a OneDrive account? My answer was, OneDrive is built into some versions of Windows and cannot be uninstalled, but you can hide it and stop the sync process so it stays hidden. To do this, turn off all the OneDrive settings and remove the OneDrive folder from File Explorer. You'll find this in the link that we'll provide in the follow-up materials. Mike asks, is it possible to synchronize the Google Calendar with the MS Office and Windows Outlook calendar programs? I'd like my phone and computer calendars to be integrated. This may not be the suggested scope, but it looks like calendars might be able to do this, but I haven't tested it. I joined the Calendly for free. I'm not familiar with Calendly, and that's spelled C-A-L-E-D-Y. But to my knowledge, there is a means of going into Outlook. We're talking the one that is in the full-blown Office version, where you can select the calendars and choose the one that you want, or you can use multiple calendars within that program. And I think that's all that I have.
Over to Bob G.
Okey-dokey. First question I have comes from Mike. Question is, please review the known serious problems with Windows 11, such as reported on Tech Radar. And my answer is simple. Windows fixes most of these problems with an out-of-band update. And the problems he was complaining about were things not working properly in Windows 11. And the update that took care of all of it was KB 5008295. And if you already updated, your problem's already been solved. That addresses the problems and gets the apps working again. I also provide a link. Follow that link. It'll give you more details. Cal asked, outside of the TPM, what are some of the other hardware requirements imposed upon the user from the latest version of the Windows operating system, i.e. video subsystem? Number one, you need a graphics card capable of DirectX 12 or later with VDDM 2.0 driver. Your display has to be high definition 720p display that is greater than 9-inch diagonal, 8-bit per color channel. For full details, again, check the link that I provided. Joni asked how to set up your computer to automatically start or on start certain applications when you first start your computer. And for that, there's a website that I referenced that gives her step-by-step instructions of how to set it up. Mainly, you have to make those programs part of what starts automatically when your system starts. And that way your programs are running in the background. I want to add one other thing. Bill said that when you sign in with your Microsoft account, it automatically shows up all your stuff. Yeah, it will, especially if you're using OneDrive, because OneDrive is part of what Windows depends on, and it automatically puts all your stuff back on your new computer. But if you don't want to use OneDrive, then you're going to have to reinstall most of that stuff or hopefully have it on a backup. It won't automatically populate your documents on all the other stuff. But if it's backed up on OneDrive, that automatically then winds up on your new computer. And that takes care of the questions I have.
And I have one to open it up to Q&A for everybody is, how in the world can I get the Spotify app off, all in caps, my Windows 10 PC? I think Microsoft pushed it onto many Win 10s earlier this year. Several people in my group have asked me how to get rid of it, and I haven't found an easy way to do that. He was talking about a non-registry editing method to tell them to do it. So is there any way he can remove easily Spotify from 10?
I would think you should be able to just go and uninstall it. But the issue with Spotify is that Microsoft purchased that as a replacement for their media player. They had something they called Groove, Groove, and they replaced that when they purchased Spotify. So Spotify is included as one of the apps when you install Windows 11. But I'm looking here, and I'm pretty sure if I right-click on it, I can uninstall it. So just you can just uninstall it. Just right-click and do the uninstall.
A suggestion in the chat box is possibly Revo uninstaller. And I have found that when I uninstall something via Microsoft and there's still footprints around, Revo uninstaller takes care of all those extra little bits and pieces that are left.
Yeah, but I know my next question is, my question to them is, what is the issue with Spotify?
He just doesn't like it and doesn't want it. And he's not here. He's taking his wife to the doctor.
Does anyone else have an issue with Spotify? I don't think a lot of people actually know it's actually built into. I mean, it actually is included with Windows 10 and Windows 11. But I use it extensively. It's one of the most universal music players. I have it in my car. I have it here in the house. And the beauty of it is that I can be playing music here in the house and go to the car and continue playing the same selection that I was playing before I left. So it's really a versatile, and it works on a variety of different devices with no issues at all. And it's free.
Thank you. John, do you want to start your polls?
Yep, I think we're going to do something a little bit different just to get an idea of everybody's feelings. So we're going to do this one. And this is a two-part question. So you do the first choice and then the other, and we'll just kind of see what kind of answers we get. So go ahead and fill these out, and then we'll take a look at the answers that people give.
Would you add mine answer, since I can't give one, to Windows 11 full-time?
Nope, that's the choice. You have a choice, full-time or not.
Not half-time.
Yeah, but I can't, since I'm a moderator, or I can't answer your poll.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
Neither can I, and I'm full-time also.
Right,
oh.
Well, you
Well,
get to
I'm
do it
not.
verbally. Yeah.
I just did.
Yep.
And I'm a no.
Yep.
Hey, somebody
I
still
guess Bob, you
using
and I
Windows
are
7.
I guess Bob, you and I are the only two unwashed people here.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
I'm still using 10, so but I've got a relatively new computer and plan to put 11 on next week.
And I'm going to try to, I'm going to fire up my crummy Dell and see if it happens to have the needed requirements, and I'll put it on there and play around with it. But I won't be using it full time.
Not counting the co-hosts. We've got about 10 seconds to put your answers in. Not everybody has yet, because I can see we have about 10 people, and maybe 5 of us are the co-hosts. So let's end this poll and then see.
Remember, I talked about that parent participation preschool when I was trying to say partition.
Yeah.
This is not a parent participation preschool, but it's a participation workshop. So everybody, please participate.
All right, the polls are closed for this two-part question, and here are the results. Just, not making any comment, just there are the results. And as you can see, very few people are using Windows 10 or 11 yet. And most of us, or most of you guys, are on Windows 10. And surprisingly, there wasn't anybody who's using XP as their big everyday. But you only had a choice of those answers. All right, we'll put that one away, and then we're going to do one other question right now. Kind of neat. Polls. Stop that one. And the next question is for those 89% of you people who answered no. And this is a multiple choice, so you can pick or choose.
Oh, I can't do it.
No.
Darn.
You got the questions earlier.
I know. I'll write my answers down.
Now, there may be some other reasons, but these are the ones that I've found and put in the survey just for fun. Then we can talk about those later today too.
Did you put a poll together? I can't remember on what are you using? To see if people are using Macs or Linux instead?
No, this is a Windows day. I didn't want to make the teeter-totter go the whole other way, but we're just talking Windows.
You bet, right.
I'd like to interject one thing. I've had quite a few people say, well, how can I force my machine to go to Windows 11? And my advice is very simple. Windows 10 is fully supported until October of 2025. There is no reason to force your machine to go to Windows 11. 11 is fully supported. It will be updated just like it has been in the past, and it's a perfectly good operating system. There isn't any real reason to make a change unless you like something a little bit different than what you currently have. Everything that works on 10 works on 11, and that's vice versa. If it's working on 11, I really don't know of anything that's not going to work on Windows 10. Yes, you don't have, or you have square corners on things in Windows 10, and you got rounded corners in Windows 11. And your start menu is on the left, and by default, it starts in the middle in Windows 11. You can move it to the left, and then I also get lots of people who say, well, I've now got Windows 11. How can I make it look like Windows 10? Why did you change in the first place? No good reason to make a change unless you're like some of us who always want to have the latest and the newest and want to play with it and learn all about it. But there's no reason to, because it might not be secure or whatever. 10 is going to be just as secure as 11, except for some hardware stuff. And there's no reason that you have to force yourself to go to Windows 11. That's my spiel on that one.
Okay, I'm
Thank
going
you
to
so
close the poll and let you see the results. One thing came into the chat to me is, why didn't you put an option of, I just haven't gotten around to it? I didn't think of that option. You know, why haven't you got around to it? You know, so here are the results that come. I don't know, do the co-host see the results?
Yes.
Okay, so interesting set of that. Majority, 2 new, unproven, and incomplete. And I like the idea. I'm comfortable, as Bob said, if you're comfortable with Windows 10.
And the changes don't excite me, except I really like the rounded corners. And I'm comfortable with Windows 10. It does everything that I need, and I'm not a gamer.
Yeah. And I think, and for Judy, I think what you need to go is check with all the hundreds of icon sets and stuff like that, and probably you can get a rounded icon set for your Windows 10.
That's
all right.
Okay.
I'll put that away for now. We'll come back to something else a little bit later, because it's only going to be probably for some select people or some people who can really answer it. But that was very interesting. We were kind of curious as to where everybody stood on this. So I think what we're going to do now is we're going to open things up. We got plenty of time, and we can do a lot of questions and stuff. Again, as I said, this is all about Windows. So if it's a Windows 10 question, a Windows 8, you know, anything dealing with Windows, the operating system, the software, any of those questions that you might have. So if you have a question, we would like you to use the reaction button, so that out of all the people that we have here and all the screens that we have, it's easy to see, for example, that George had his hand up right away. And then we'll call on you to either ask a question or answer a question that's been proposed. So George, go ahead and unmute and share with us. Ask away.
So we help a lot of people in our computer club upgrade their computers or restore computers. And the biggest problem we have is with things that deal with mail, contacts, and bookmarks. Now, I heard your answer to Dorothy about just log in with your existing device and on your new computer to your and make sure you're synchronized. But some of our people are not synchronized, or they may be working from a backup, which they can't really restore on the new computer. So I know my problem is Windows Mail has a very, I would call, dysfunctional storage scheme. There's no EMLs. You can't, you know, if you wanted to back up each mail, you've got to go to each email email itself, and you can, you know, save it or print it out or whatever. But so do you have there are some programs which say that they can do this conversion, they can restore those kind of things. And they usually cost money. So my question is, what is the best solution for somebody who cannot log on to their old machine with Windows Mail and to get all their contacts, primarily the contacts? I'm more interested in restoring their contacts than restoring their old email, but their contacts and things like that would be good to restore to a new machine, essentially. One, like we'd be upgrading them to Windows 10, and they wouldn't be able to transfer their settings from a previous machine.
Okay,
George, I
anybody
don't
on
know
the
if I-
panel? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I answered that question originally, but and I use Windows Mail, but George, I haven't had that experience, so I don't know of any third-party solutions that you can use that would pertain to Windows Mail specifically. As Bob pointed out, well, I'm just going for one experience that I recall, is that I helped a lady move from an old laptop to a new laptop. And when I started the process, I was surprised by the fact that she was using a Microsoft account. So when I actually set up her machine and asked her for a Microsoft account, I put that information in, and her Windows Mail, which she was using, showed up with all her information, contacts, and all her mail was there, just like it was on the old machine. So, and then on my own experience is that when I've done that, I found the same condition. It always just syncs up. So I'm not really sure how to answer that question. Maybe someone else has a better answer, but with Windows Mail, I've just found that if I sign in with my Microsoft account, everything just shows up, because the one thing, the Windows Mail uses the Microsoft email address and password. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
Dorothy, do you have an answer to that or a different question?
Well, that was originally my question. But when Bill said, like, I find a lot of people I try to help, none of them are signed in with a Microsoft account. And I understand with Windows 11, you need to have a Microsoft account. And I do recall when I did set someone up a few years ago with the Windows 10 on their new PC, once they signed in with the Microsoft account, their email slowly arrived. But quite often I use the Windows 10 mail app for my friends and just set it up with the Gmail, and it works fine. Or you could do Outlook, I guess, but they could go to Gmail on the Gmail website in the cloud. But yeah, that's, it's just the majority of everyone I know, none of their computers are compatible with Windows 11. So they all are going to have to buy new computers in 2025. So yeah, including myself. And I don't understand why. I have an i7. I messaged Bill what I had, and I don't understand. Everything is good except for the core processor, which my computer is not that old.
Generation. I bought a reconditioned, very powerful desktop, and my surprise was, yeah, it was an i7, but it was 7th generation. Okay, so there's never any guarantee that your processor, even though it's an i7, is one that will work.
Yeah.
And Dorothy, I think Microsoft is gradually going back and reviewing some of those processor requirements. So at some point, your processor might be included, you know, that it's going to work fine. We have I have an i5 here that is maybe 3-4 months old, and it's compatible. But then there's one over at the computer club that is 4 years old. It's an i5 as well, and it's not.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think we
It
just
it isn't i5 or i7, it's generation.
generations, and I think I agree with Bob.
So if we're worried about generation, the older generation can't use Windows 11. So that puts most of us out.
Well, Windows 10 goes till 2025, and some of us may not be here to have to worry about upgrading to Windows 11.
Oh, yeah, sure. Your kids think you're gonna live to get forever like mine do, I bet. Anyway, Bob G, do you still have that low-end Walmart special you got?
Yes, ma'am.
Does it work with Windows 11?
Yes, ma'am. That
Oh,
was
Lord.
originally that was the only computer I had. Cost less than $350, and right off the box, when it came up, I put 11 on it because it was fully compatible. It's the cheapest, it has the least amount of resources, but it was Windows 11 ready.
And you've had it for about almost a year, haven't you?
Longer than a year.
Longer than a year?
Yep.
Yeah.
What a hoot. I have a couple of questions from the chat box here. Is there a way to try out Windows 11 before installing it?
No. But there is a way of going back if you do install it. You have 10 days to try it out. And if you, within those 10 days, you don't like it, just go back.
Okay.
And there's been a number of people that have been using that virtual machines or virtual boxes to try it, but you know, I think it's really a non-story. If your machine, this is just my opinion, if your machine is capable of running it, and it's running Windows 10 and it's saying upgrade to Windows 11, go ahead and do it. I don't really think you'll really notice a huge difference other than the location of certain things, and the biggest changes are in the settings menu, which has been reconfigured. But I think you'll find it a lot more understandable and easier to use than the old one that's in 10. A lot of people not even using settings. So, I mean, I think that's really kind of a non-starter. The other thing that you'll find different is File Explorer, where they have eliminated the ribbon bar, but I know there's a number of folks that don't use File Explorer. So if you're in that category, switching to Windows 11 will not be a huge big deal for you, other than the fact that you have a more modern, up-to-date operating system.
And if you're on Windows 8 or 8.1 and you use OneDrive, you better upgrade at least to Windows 10, because as of January, you're going to have some problems with OneDrive not doing syncing. Well, you can still upload manually, and in March, you won't be able to do anything as far as syncing goes. Everything has to be done manually, and you won't even be able to access OneDrive online. It'll be just what you have on your computer. So there's another reason to upgrade or update to at least Windows 10, especially for those that are using OneDrive.
How do we find out what generation computer we have? I'm assuming that means the AMD or Intel chip.
Go to About under System. It'll tell you what processor you have, and then you have to compare it to the list that Microsoft has published. as supportable CPUs.
Or you just go out on the internet and put the chip number in or whatever it is.
Well,
and
you
it'll
still have
up
to
and
go-
Tell you if it's the second, third, fifth, seventh, 25th generation.
You still have to go to the abouts in settings to find out what that is.
Mhm.
Because the label that's on your PC doesn't necessarily tell you what generation it is. It'll just say, you know, it's an Intel Core i5 or whatever. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Hey, John Kennedy has a question.
Well, it's a problem that we were talking about the mail, and I was working with somebody who was switching from a Windows 7 computer and was using, you know, Microsoft Mail, but with a different client on the computer. When we switched her to 10, none of her contacts were there. But yet, if she started a new message and then started typing in the 2, it would autofill from the contacts from somewhere. So, you know, I have an idea.
They're in the contacts are actually in something called the People app, which is kind of hard to get to.
Right,
it's
because
like-
you know, on the Microsoft Mail down at the bottom, there's a button to go to people, and there weren't anybody in there. But yet she could still. I finally showed to her how just start typing the name of who you want to mail, and there it showed up. So it's there, but not visible.
Yeah, let me.
Over to David.
Okay, I have a question about virtual drives. My older computer, I wanted to know if there's a VirtualBox or VMware that will let you emulate TPM and the NEFI, because my computer won't do either of those natively.
Who's got an answer?
Not that I know of.
I thought I had read somewhere that VMware would let you do it with the newest version, but I played around with it a little bit and haven't been able to find it. That old computer, I do actually have it set up so my hard drive is in a removable bay, and I put a separate drive in there and used a program called Rufus to modify the Windows 11 ISO, and it removed the TPM check and the NEFI check. So I was actually able to do a clean install on my approximately 10-year-old computer and get Windows 11 up and running on it. So at least I can play around with it now.
Did you notice there's not a whole lot of difference?
That's what I noticed, and I was one of those people that basically put down, my main computer is new enough to be able to switch, and I put down I'm comfortable with Windows 10, and with my main computer I need to switch it over to the UEFI BIOS and redo the formatting on the hard drive, but I just haven't wanted to do that much work right now.
If any of the 4 of you that have your hand raised have the answer to David's, wave to me. Okay, Bud, take over.
I've got Windows 11 set up in a VirtualBox and a VMware box. In VirtualBox, you have to use the patches in order to get there. There is a patch or a registry hack that you can do to take care of the TPM problem. In VMware, if you have the Pro version, they have the TPM is all built into it, and you can actually go ahead and install Windows 11 without any garbage, as long as it's a compatible computer you're on. And I've had no problems with either one of them. I've actually got both the released version of Windows 11 and the final preview version of it installed in different places. and they all work fine. They're all been updated at least 2 times since they've been released. They're all running the same version. So if you do want to put it in a VirtualBox, it is doable. And there are all kinds of instructions out on the internet on how to do it.
Right, I'm not too worried about it because like I said, I was able to bypass it using this software program basically goes in and edits the ISO before you, as it makes it a bootable ISO for a
Yeah, I've also
flash
used
drive.
it, Rufus too, to do it.
Yeah, pretty neat little program.
It is.
Kurt,
an answer to people who want to know what generation, and this works for many processors. If you go into settings about and look at the processor name, very frequently the first 2 numbers or the first 1 or 2 number that follow the line, like I7 or I5 or whatnot, will tell you the generation. As an example, I'm running on a it says an i7 4790K. That is an i7 and it is 4th generation. For the more recent processors, you'll find the first 2 letters or first 2 numbers indicate the generation number in it, like 10 or 11, followed by 3 numbers. A little bit of speculation. I suspect that as time goes on, Microsoft will take and relax the processor power association with a generation number. We see a similar case in what Zoom has done with virtual backgrounds. And it used to be they looked for a particular processor type to, before they would allow you to enable it. And that has sort of gone away now. I don't know if they've increased the size of the table, or if they just said it's a kind of silly way. It's like measuring computer speed with MIPS, which most of us know is a meaningless indication of processor speed. So I suspect that Microsoft is going to relax that over time. It's a silly way to identify processors. It's quick and it's easy to program, but it's sloppy because it's not very accurate. Off soapbox.
That's good, Kurt. It's interesting. I just did the check just to see, because my computer will upgrade except for the TPM, but I can do that in the BIOS if I would happen to choose to do that. But I just looked and I have a 10th generation, but it's an i3. So it definitely doesn't matter what we're talking about in i3, 5, 7, 9. That generation really makes a difference because I'm an i3, but I can go up to Windows 11 if I wanted to.
and I have a comment in the chat box that Microsoft's PC Health will tell you what CPU and generation you have.
Over to Edward.
Yes, yeah, I tried the VMware Workstation Player and was stopped because it doesn't support the TPM unless you go to the Pro. So then I tried Hyper-V. Hyper-V does support TPM, and I created a virtual machine with Windows 11 using Hyper-V. Just that when you create the virtual machine, you have to make sure there's an option there for generation 1 or generation 2. Generation 2.
Edward, you're staticky and we can't hear you. And it looks like you're now frozen in time.
No,
Nope.
can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, imagine that if you have a Windows 10 Pro, you can turn on Hyper-V and create a Windows 11 virtual machine, and make sure you can turn on TPM with Hyper-V.
Cool. Over to Harmon.
Yes, I have a 22-inch widescreen monitor, and I show 4 rows of icons in my taskbar. Will that transfer over to Windows 11 the same way?
The taskbar is going to be revamped. I would say the answer would be no.
Correct.
2 no's, and I Googled the question.
And the reason, well, the reason why I'm saying that is that the taskbar in Windows 11 is static. It's always going to be at the bottom, and it's either going to be left or center depending on the setting that you choose. So I don't believe you can have multiple. Is there something else I can help with? I don't believe you can have multiple taskbars.
Aren't they wanting to really push the new start menu to have all your icons?
The new start menu actually replaces the tiles that were used to be on the left side. I mean, on the right side. So now you have this display of all your all the apps that you have pinned. Now, Windows 11 will assume, based on what you had on your old tiles, it'll put those in this new start menu, the area that's above. And then, of course, you can pin additional ones there too, just like you could in Windows 10 or. And you can also, if you still like to do that, if you had icons on your desktop, they're going to show up there as well. All that part will not change.
Windows 11 is also working on making some changes on the taskbar. That's going on right now because they've had so many complaints.
I would assume that. I've seen, of course, I always had my taskbar at the bottom. The only option I always use, I like to use the hidden part where the taskbar will hide, but I've never had it on the side or the top. But I do know there are individuals that have it located in other places.
If I were going to download it, I would probably wait till first quarter 2022. When Microsoft finally gets it a little bit more like people like it, with all the suggestions that they're getting, and a gazillion people wonder why they're doing this, that, and the other thing, because they've been kind of doing that all along since they first released it. So I think it has a lot of room to grow before I read somewhere and it said, this is version 1.0. And, you know, and they're going to add to 1.0 until people stop crapping and complaining about it.
Well, I think I always looked at Windows as being evolutionary, so it's going to evolve over time. And so I see no reason to wait around for it to be the latest and greatest. It's always going to change. So you just might as well be in part of the process. I mean, there's not going to be that. There's not going to be those changes are going to be gradual over a period of time.
I actually have 3 versions of Windows 11 running. The actual released one, the beta one, and then the one that gets all the latest little stuff thrown at it. So,
but visually it looks the same, does it not, Bob?
Yes.
Yeah.
In the computer world, we kind of call that they have become a rolling release. That, as Bill said, it's going to be ongoing, and used to be a long-term support for many years, and then a new one would come out. But I think they're going the route that some other operating system developers are going with. You know, rolling release. As improvements come, it'll change. The problem is the problem is if you're a person like certain person I know who doesn't like change, it's going to be a problem.
But you know, the interesting thing about that is that if you are in the Mac world, is that they are rather accustomed to this, because usually when the Mac releases their latest operating system, within hours almost, there's an update. And over a period of time, you'll see different changes that are made. And they have no qualms about, Apple has absolutely no qualms about snatching a hardware version and completely making it obsolete. And the Mac people just have to go out and buy a new machine or a new device. So I think the Windows people have been, well, Microsoft has been rather generous in their requirements, because you don't have that kind of a situation is that Windows has been able to equate to a number of people's needs and desires, where Mac it's really, they're rather dogmatic at their in their policy.
Over
And just to
to
make,
Dorothy.
okay, I was just going to comment, and then Dorothy, about the fact that in the other operating system too, Linux, they have both options, so that, you know, the people that want long-term, no changes can go that route. People want changes and improvements all the time, go that route. So Microsoft's kind of getting into the middle of that now. All right, Dorothy.
Just a couple of comments. My computer's a 7th generation. I went and Googled it. Also, for the people that wondered, there's on the Microsoft website, there's lots of videos about Windows 11. And my other question was, does anyone know how to import a PST or an OST into the online Microsoft Outlook or to Gmail? I have
Do I
yeah,
say if they do, I have somebody who wants to know too.
well, I pay a yearly fee for the Microsoft suite, but when you go online, you can use all the Word, Excel, whatever, what I want to use. And I'm just trying to get away from having Microsoft, the paid version, and do the online version. Okay, I have to go now. So thank you all very much for.
Thank you, Dorothy.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions, and I have a Zoom question. In Zoom on a desktop PC, my wife's screen picture shows up as upside down. Has anybody else had that problem, and do they know of a fix? Kurt.
Within Zoom settings, there is an option to take and rotate your screen. Go into video settings and let me find it. Actually, in your picture, if you go into Zoom settings video, where you see your picture, in the upper right-hand corner of your picture, you'll see a little icon, and that'll rotate your image 90 degrees at a time.
Interesting. I've known the flip, but I didn't know about that.
How about that, John? Mark that as in your repertoire of stuff to know.
Well, if anybody goes upside down in my Zoom rooms, they're going to get kicked out. They've been drinking too much.
Okay, fine.
John, you're wrong there. You've been drinking too much.
If I see them upside down. Yeah, I've never noticed that little thing in the corner. I've always been looking at the bottom for stuff. And sure enough, I don't know why. Must be because of people's monitors or cameras.
It's because of people's cameras, and I found it most recently because I bought a new webcam. I'm not using it right now, but the way I would install it at my desk, my workstation, requires that the camera be upside down.
God, you're upside down.
Yeah, I'm back. Okay, that's a good answer, Kurt, on that, because the way he has to set it, that makes sense.
I have an Acronis question. My friend has been using a Acronis 2016 for backup. Each time it is used, she gets the message that the backup failed. She has plenty of room on the backup drive. Each time it fails at different points during the backup. Her Windows 10 is up to date. He's Googled around, but can't find a specific answer. He uses Acronis 2017 with no problems, so he can't figure out what's wrong with her 2016. And he also said, I see that Acronis has gone to a subscription. What recommendations does everybody have for a non-subscription backup program? Kurt, what do you use to back up?
I'm a bad example.
Never mind. Oh, shame.
Windows 7, backup and restore, works in Windows 11.
You just answered another question that we had, but I realized didn't get answered. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah. I was going to answer it, but that's a true statement. That's what I use is if I'm going to use a backup.
Excuse me, and what else do you use?
Well, I back up basically to OneDrive.
And Dropbox and Google.
I'm a big lover of A Shampoo Backup Pro 16 now.
It's
I've heard
free.
of that.
No, it's not free,
No.
but it's pretty inexpensive.
Yep.
For a
Yeah.
file backup, I use ThinkBack, and it actually does a pretty good job. It only copies files that have been changed, so it doesn't take very long to update your backups.
Is that to an external drive?
I do it to internal, external, and other computers on my network.
Got
So I have it set up at night. It does it automatically for my wife's computer onto mine onto my laptop, mine onto an external drive that I have as a backup as well. So it just does all three of those. I don't have to worry about it. It happens every night. I can check it, make sure it's happened, and I have my backups.
Bob G, do you still on Friday night unplug the internet, so to speak, and back up everything?
That's an automatic thing. Automatically get off the internet, and then I do my image creation.
He does it once a week on everything, no matter come hell or high water.
It's done while I'm sleeping, so I don't care.
Yeah, I always say when you get up in the morning, it's done.
That's correct.
That's my assumption. Does anybody else use a backup program that they absolutely swear by and is easy?
Yeah,
What?
I've been using Macrium Reflect. They have a free version, which will do the whole system. And the thing I like about it is you can mount that image and get it individual files, which I don't know if the Windows backup allows you to do that. And they have a paid version which allows you to do the incremental and scheduled backups.
For individual files, I just go back to OneDrive.
Yeah.
That was my question. But does anybody have an idea why she getting failed backups? It'll run through, she's got maybe 300 megabytes, but it'll stop at like 8 or 90 megabytes.
Is it because it's an old version and Acronis would like you to move on?
I've got
Seven
2017.
if 7 is working, if 7 is working and 6 is not, it depends on what changes were made between 6 and 7. And I don't know if you've done a search to find out whether 6 is incompatible with.
You mean 2016?
Yes.
And don't forget, you get 50% discount at ugr7.com. You never go to Acronis and pay full price. So it's not that painful to buy a new version.
Do you know what directory the backup is in when it stalls?
Yeah, it's going to, I think, her external drive, and she has it labeled as U drive is the name.
Oh, how cute.
U drive. I mean, is it like it's getting stuck in photos or documents? Can you pinpoint that?
No.
Because what I was thinking is possibly there might be a file that it's faulty that's causing the interruption.
Well, she's done a lot of incrementals, and she does it automatically. And I've looked at those, and they're all very short, small files. So she didn't realize it. what's going on. And I looked at it today, and I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what's going on. But it'll go for a little while and just give the failed icon or message.
Yeah, I would kind of see if I think I would look at the files as the file that's actually being that the machine is actually trying to back up. There might be a issue with that particular file or folder that's causing it to abort.
How would I see that if it's failed? I mean, there's a file there, but
does her program give you a log report?
I went to their help thing, and it says run this program, and it'll create a log. Well, the damn log is like 300 and something megabytes, so I can't even email it out. It seems like it's doing her entire drive, because her entire drive is like 300 and something megabytes of data and files and things. So I don't understand that either. It doesn't help.
Because I know that I've had times when I've had a backup fail for certain files or directories because of permission problems. And then you have to go in and into your settings and say, skip this folder or skip these files. But to just stop at a certain spot, I'm not quite sure either.
Yeah, and the problem with the Cronus, she was going to update, but it's a subscription now, apparently. And she doesn't want to do that. So
I think she better check, because Judy, I don't think what we offer on the site is a subscription one. It's just.
Oh, really?
Judy's checking for sure.
Yeah, I lost that link to that, because that's where I got my version. Yeah. Okay, well, it's just kind of weird, because I looked at it and everything looks to be normal, compared to mine. 2017.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Melvin.
I started having trouble with my Cronus. So I guess it's been almost 4 years ago now. I finally went away from the Cronus because I was constantly having issues with it. And it sounds like the issue she's having is one of those I was having, but was never able to resolve. So I use Asus Toto now, their free version, and having no issues at all.
Gary, I muted you again.
That is recommended by Ask Leo Notenboom. He's a big fan of ECS.
Easier?
Yes, it is free or paid.
And Gary, another thing you might try just for grins is try backing up with the Windows backup and see if it will go through.
Okay.
That's free. It's built into the operating system.
Yeah, I suggested that to her, but she's not that technically. I'm gonna have to go over and do it.
Well, I think it's. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I think if you just plug in your external drive, it'll automatically set up for you. You don't have to do a lot of configuration.
Okay.
And see if it'll go all the way through. I mean, it's just a test to see if there's a problem with the file structure or there's a problem with the software.
Okay.
How old is her computer?
I don't know. It's not that old, but
okay.
And the easiest way to get to it is through the control panel.
Okay.
Gary, how is her electrical wiring system at her place? Does she ever have any little blips or glips that were small enough to not trigger your lights going off, your clocks, but enough to it might throw off the computer a second?
Well, it's kind of funny you say that, because her other problem is that once a day, she would try to get on the internet and it says it cannot find the site, even though her router lights are all on. She has to reboot and then everything comes back. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but
who is her ISP?
IST?
Internet service provider for her.
Verizon.
Oh, too bad.
Yeah.
Well, then she needs to talk to Verizon and tell them that she needs a tech to come out and take a look at her internet stuff like we do with Spectrum.
Yeah, and I had a friend who like every Sunday afternoon had problems, but it was his router, so he got a new one. Turns out.
Interesting. It might be the router. Okay, thank you.
Edward Kenny, you're on.
Can't hear you.
Like Windows 11 because I just migrated.
No, doesn't work.
Yeah, you got staticky and breaking up.
You need to get a new headset.
It worked fine if I upgrade to Windows 11.
Yep. You need to get one before Saturday.
Is it working now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Have you tried? Have you thought about trying to reinstall Cronus?
I just told her that, and she's not that technically adept, but yeah, that's going to be the next step. Just trying to reinstall it. Yeah.
Okay, I had 3 licenses for Cronus 2021, and I was so disgusted about it. I had so many trouble tickets in it. I talked to them and it let me downgrade to 2018. And 2018 is flawless.
Yeah.
Because the problem with 2021, they stopped up.
Edward, you're crummy again.
It stopped update. It stopped giving new upgrades for 2021 to new versions, and so
Edward,
what?
You need to get a new headset and microphone.
I just bought it last year.
Darren can hear you, but it
Yeah,
keeps
but
going out.
Yeah, every time you touch it, it works, but then you'll get all crumbly and we can't understand you.
Maybe it's broken. I don't know.
That's it. A new one before your meeting on Saturday.
Well, I don't have to use a headset. I can take it off. But anyways, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes. Now.
Okay. I had so many problems in 2021 that I talked to him. I downgraded all my 3 licenses down to 2018, and I have no problems at all with 2018. And
there was a lot of buzz out there that people were not liking 2021.
Now you're gone again, Edward.
Yep, over to David.
Yes, until my recent upgrade and back to Bill, I was able to enter a URL and go right to that website. Now, when I try to enter a URL, the darn Bing pops up with all of its advertising. I don't need it. I don't want it. How do I get rid of it?
What browser are you using?
He's using Edge, but
I'm using Edge.
David,
okay,
just
go into your settings,
right,
and change your default search engine.
I don't want a search engine.
Well, you have to do something. That's
you don't have a choice.
Yeah,
have to have one.
If you don't like Bing, what do you like?
No, I don't need a search engine when I know the URL. When I need a search engine, I will use.
No, David, but you still.
I've been able to use search engines all my life, but when I know the URL, I don't like the interference.
Then don't
but
use
when
it.
You type in the URL in your address bar, it's going to use the search engine that you have set as the default. So you're going to have to change.
When I enter the URL, why does the search engine pop up? It did not do that until a recent upgrade.
Oh, I see what you mean. But I don't have an answer for you, but I understand your question now.
Good.
He used to be able to type in the URL and go directly to where he wanted to go.
Yes.
Now Bing is popping up and saying, excuse me, I'm here. Can I help you? He wants that to go away. How does he fix that?
Well, in Edge, the address bar will trigger the search engine regardless. I mean, that's just the way it's designed.
Mm-mm.
If that's the case, that is a shame.
No.
That is a real shame. It's
well, if you go in and if you go into the settings down at the bottom, it will say address bar search. The address bar is a search engine.
Yeah, but if you type in the URL, it goes to the address. It doesn't get intercepted. I use Edge, and I don't ever have it if I'm putting in a URL. Provided provided the URL is correct.
Yes.
If not, then it's intercepted.
There are two places you can enter it in Edge. Be sure you're actually using the URL line and not the search one. A lot of people don't realize there's two there. The top one is the one where you want to enter the URL,
Correct.
not the one that's down about 1.5 inches at the top.
I agree with Melvin.
Well, I never had this problem until one of the most recent upgrades.
I've got all the latest upgrades and mine seems to work great.
Are you using the very top address bar?
I
Not
say
the
I've been
search.
doing it successfully for years.
I just typed in my Edge that I use all the time. I don't have that problem. I got a screen that I typed in apcug2.org and I didn't see what was first there. It didn't take me to any place. I pressed the enter key and boom, I was instantly at APCUG's website, no problem.
I'll recheck settings, but as I say, this is something that I've been successfully doing. There's a couple of URLs that I go to directly, and I don't want to search, and I don't want all the advertising that comes with the darn search.
Do you have another browser installed that you can test that same URL?
Oh, yes, I do, and that browser works fine. It's just a recent version of Edge.
It doesn't like you, obviously. Sorry.
Yes.
Tiny has a question.
Oh, actually, I was going to give a suggestion for the search problem. In your browser setting, if you go to your browser settings, you can disable search from the taskbar, from the search from the URL bar. That's the address bar. Yeah, from the address bar, excuse me. All browsers will do that.
I don't have any more questions in my chat box. We want questions. I can't believe that nobody has a question.
George does.
It's not really a question, but I think it's the difference between guys and gals. We actually have a member who goes and tests their backup. She's a gal. She makes her backup and then she goes and loads the file just to check that the backup worked. And I think that's a great practice.
Well, you are supposed to occasionally check to see if what you just backed up, make a test file with a dumb name and make sure that your backup is actually working. Because if you don't and you have a hardware failure and you only back up to an external hard drive and you haven't checked to make sure it is actually doing its job, you're up a creek.
Yeah, and too often, like the lady who has been a problem with her incremental backups. I wonder how long she's been doing incrementals before she found out that she can't get at some files. I don't know.
I do an image backup every single Saturday night.
Oh, I thought it was Friday night. I'm going to have to.
No, it's
my
Saturday
story.
night. Yeah, it's every Saturday night.
Got to change my story.
And I generally haven't done incremental. I know I'm using hard drive space, but I'd rather have the whole image in one file.
Okay.
Yeah, mine is set to do 5. Number 6 overwrites the old.
Yeah.
The oldest gets dropped when the
Yeah.
6th one is added. So
yeah, and with respect to Bill's comment that he goes into his OneDrive, the advantage of the backups is you can go back a year. Let's say say you updated a file, but you really want the year-old copy. So I don't know if OneDrive will let you go back into a series of previous saves. Anybody know?
I don't think so, other than you can have version history.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That
Right.
kind of version history.
That's in, but it's not in OneDrive. It's in,
You get it in Google Docs. I know that.
yeah, you get it in Microsoft Word also.
Yeah, okay, but not on the file versions. Okay,
Yeah, not on the
thanks.
file version.
Bernard has a question.
Yeah. Acronis's new program is called Cyber Protect. They want to be your be all to end all, like everybody else wants to be your be all and end all and hit everything. Bernard, you're on.
My question is to John. Will you be including your survey results in your download to?
Yes, I will. I took screenshots of them all.
Okay, thank you.
So the answer is, I was going to send it to her. I have to see how it shows up on the host, but yes, we will send that back part. And while we're on that, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up another one. This is not a poll. And even though it says Windows 7 users, that is going to spread out to those people who use Windows 11, have been testing Windows 11. And being the teacher, it's not going to be a simple yes or no. This is a short answer. But if you are a person who has used 11 or tested 11, we're going to give a two-part. What do you like best about it? And then anybody could answer from what you've been observing or listening or whatever. What would you like to see Microsoft change, add, or remove? So if you want to answer this, you can take part in that. If you don't, you can just X out of your survey. But it would be interesting to see what people like about it, because I know that we're going to have people say, well, what do people like about 7 or 11? So you can give us some of your answers, and now you have a chance to say, what is it that you don't like that they have or would like them to change or whatever. So just give us some general discussions, and we'll continue on with some other people while you fill that out if you want to.
Since I can't answer that question, what I like is the fact that it's now in the middle instead of being on the right-hand side, because my coffee cup always blocked the start menu. Now it doesn't do that anymore.
You're not supposed to have a coffee cup by your keyboard. My sister,
it's not by the keyboard. It's by the monitor.
Oh, that's right. That monitor stretches to the next room.
Yeah.
My sister just texted me, and I called her. She was on her laptop and sitting there and spilled a cup of coffee on the keyboard, and now some of the letters don't work. But we can resolve that by the fact that I told her she can pop up the onboard keyboard or go out and buy a cheap one and plug it in, then you got a keyboard. But no, keep those liquids away from your keyboards and your computers.
Mine is literally on my printer table over here to the right, but I like it on the left because I'm still into reading readiness left to right. Can't help myself.
But my favorite is the start menu. I really like the new start menu.
Well, Bill and Bob, send me your likes and what you would like better, and I'll just add them to the other poll stuff. Okay.
Well, I like that, and I also like the new means of being able to split the screen by just clicking on the little icon in the upper left, where it used to be the maximize. Now, when you hover over it, you have a choice of putting the page on the left or the right, or you can divide it into 3 sections. I think that's really, really good.
I do that with the bar up at the top by clicking and just snapping it to the left and snapping the
Well,
other
now
one
you
to
don't
the
even
right.
have to do that. It's all built in. And I can't find any dislikes right now. I don't have any of those.
Yeah, I do have some dislikes. When you do a right click on a function, inevitably what I want is on the more menu.
Oh,
Okay, because they have now decided, oh, these are the most popular ones, so we won't bother unless you select more, or you use a shortcut key to get there. Now, I'm lucky I happen to have a keyboard that has shortcut keys that I could set up, and I did that for one of them. So I don't ever bother with doing a right click. I just simply hit that key and it pops up my menu for me.
cool.
But not everybody has a keyboard that allows you to do macros. And that's what I did. I set up a macro just so I don't have to bother with the more, because I already know it's on the more menu.
We need to have somebody show us all how to make macros, because I know Tom Burt made one for me for the push articles that will instantly change the margins, change the font and stuff like that. So I don't have to go through those steps for each article I receive. I only need to go, take it through Grammarly and do a couple of other things before I consider it good to go to the editors. So
I
I
guess
would
it's,
like a demo on how to do that. Over to George.
Is there a Windows that runs on tablets?
Yeah, 10 and 11 does.
Does it run only on a Surface?
Yes.
That would be.
Well, there's a new one coming out that's supposed to be a competitor to Chrome, to a Chromebook. And that's going to be a Windows S, which depends mostly on online stuff.
Okay.
I have a lady recently bought a Windows S with 128 gig of SSD, and we couldn't load Chrome browser, I don't think. Like
On the
you
S
can
machines-
only load the stuff that's in the Microsoft Store.
That's correct.
Right.
Yes, that's why, but you can get rid of that. You can,
You
go
can
into the
upgrade to a
Microsoft-
non-S. You can upgrade the machine to a
Yes, and it will cost you $14.99 if you want to go back. At least that's the way it was 2 years ago with my Dell.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't know. I mean, it's a nice machine, and in some respects, it's similar to a Chromebook. But people get Windows machines so that they can load apps from other sources in the App Store or the Microsoft Store. Anyway,
Buy a cheap one like I did from Walmart.
yeah. Well, she'd already taken the advice from the salesman, not from me.
What was I going to say? Never mind. Oh, one of the questions that was asked is, does anybody know why Microsoft doesn't have a low-end OS that is very easy to use, that nations with people who don't have a lot of money can use a computer easily?
There could be. I saw some years ago, we were looking at, there are some different versions besides the new S of Windows. I don't know currently whether there is something like that, but everybody's going with Chromebooks. So Microsoft would be probably at a loss to cut their expenses back down to compete with Chromebooks.
There's the
So
answer. That's what I thought.
I do know that Windows will run on certain ARM processors, which is the low-end CPUs for tablets and other devices that are inexpensive. So, I mean, if those devices are available, one of our members in our club has a tablet that she bought from HP has an ARM processor, and it runs Windows 10. So I do know you can get those.
Mm-hmm.
How much did you pay for that?
I don't recall, but I think it was less than $200.
What about a Raspberry Pi?
What about it?
For a low end?
But I don't think you can run Windows on a Raspberry Pi.
There's a version of Windows for Raspberry Pi, but it's the Windows that's used to support IoT devices. It's not a real operating system.
Oh, okay. We have a lot of people that are having problems with their Cronus. I have another problem in here. I would suggest that all of you guys that are having problems with the Cronus is if it happens repeatedly, go to a different backup program. It's unfortunate that we can no longer ask Gene Barlow the questions. A couple of years ago, before he had his 2 strokes, he would have been on these problems instantly, but that doesn't happen anymore. We just get the discount, we don't get the support. Is your poll finished, Mr. John?
I stopped it.
Okay.
Cal was showing something. Was that a laptop? Was that a tablet? What were you showing?
No, that was my copy of Acronis. Sorry.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
you're having, can you answer any of these Acronis problems? This guy says it halts on disk read. And he restarts and the backup starts again when it stops. Oh, is that, oh, okay, that's a 1,000-year-old version.
Yes, that's a 1,000-year-old version. I don't have a current one. Sorry.
Okay, well, it sounds like maybe the current ones are, well, 2017's been around since 2017, so you'd think they would have gotten rid of all the bugs. Hey, no grass grows under my feet, Cal. What can I tell you? Questions?
No.
We're looking for questions.
But they're still only subscription, even at
Yes,
the
yes.
yeah.
That's it. Like I said, they want to be your be all end all with your security, your backing up, and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, what a dumb.
Like everybody wants to be your be all end all. Hey, Mr. Bob G, can you tell us anything that's going on with Avast and Norton?
Until the second quarter of 2022, that's when it finalizes.
Okay.
And until then, basically what I would, or the best way to phrase it is, if you remember that Avast purchased AVG, you still have Avast, you still have AVG. The difference is it's now a combined product of the best of both. And if you're on AVG, you still have the user interface for AVG. And if you were using Avast, you use Avast's interface. But the guts, the part that protects us, that's a combination of the best of both. And I imagine that once Norton is in the mix or LifeLock is in the mix, there'll probably be something that comes from them combined with stuff that comes from Avast. And since the main reason that Norton wants this merger is because they want to up the number of users that they have. Remember, Avast has 435 million users worldwide, and Norton LifeLock only has 85 million. They want to be able to advertise that they have over 500 million users worldwide. So if you don't come out with something that makes everybody happy, that's not going to happen. So that's about as much as I know. I don't know much beyond that, and Avast really can't open their mouth or say anything until the merger has been finalized.
And Avast didn't know how many people can't stand Norton, huh? Oh,
they should. They should.
Who approached who?
I've been told it's a merger, and then I've also heard that it was Norton was the one that was acquiring. But then I've also been told, no, this is a friendly merger and we're going to combine the best of both. So we'll have to wait and see.
Do you know if there will still be the free programs out there?
That's what's keeping all those numbers up. And if you want to continue to say that you have over 500, you better continue with a free version.
So until second quarter, we won't know how the Piriform products shake out.
Piriform is still going to be Piriform. it's still going to be there.
Right, but
Remember, they also have paid products. They don't just have free products.
okay. Oh, okay. I never looked at it that way.
Yep.
Okay, because they have their own utilities program.
Yep.
All righty, you guys, do we have any more questions? Questions?
Okay.
Answers to questions that nobody's asked.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you guys some questions and maybe you can answer it, maybe not. I tried to get some information from some people elsewhere, and it's a question of whether I should be setting up a server, whether I should just have something that people are suggested, setting up something like a RAID system for having all my stuff in one place and then just accessing it from other computers. Just curious what you folks feel. Some people feel that if I set up a server, it's going to be too heavy duty. You know, you have to really start messing around technology wise. So any ideas or any thoughts would be interesting.
Okay, you guys that have servers.
I tried with that, but best way I found was just use a USB hub.
Dave Melton.
So as far as a server is concerned, I've had one running here at home for many years because I want to be able to have one place to do my backups from rather than backing up all the different family computers. So I have an inexpensive, couple $300 Zyxel 2-disc mirror disk array with all my data on it. And I back that up instead of backing up everybody's computers. Does that help?
Yeah, it looks like that's where other people are coming from, is to use something like an array system. Basically, I want to store my data somewhere and then be able to access it from different locations, let's say, or from different computers.
Exactly, and that's what I'm able to do by using my RAID device. I can access it from my wife's computer, my daughter's computer, my computer, whatever, and it's always available.
Over to Mike Ungerman.
I used to have a couple of network attached storage devices, self-contained in their own cases with their own network interface, and decided in August that I wanted to upgrade to something that was a little more professional. So I bought a Synology disk station. I bought a 2-slot RAID array, put a couple of SSDs in, even though they recommend mechanical hard drives. I can access it from any computer in the house over Wi-Fi. And if I choose, I can open it up to access it from off premises. I've chosen not to do that, but I can do that. So it used to be very, very expensive to do something like that. But for, let's just say, for a total investment of under 500 and probably under 4, I was able to get the drive array box without any hard drives, and then I bought 2 relatively inexpensive SSDs from Amazon, just figuring I'd try it out. And they've worked real well.
Cool, thank you. Over to David.
I was going to basically say the same thing. I have a Synology NAS box, and I back up to that. I also have a 6 terabyte USB drive that I do a second backup to. But the Synology box is great because I can get to it from my smart TV or some of my other devices besides just the computers.
Cool. Bud. Unmute, please.
I will add to the Synology. I also have one, and I've got a second TrendNet NAS also that I back up to.
One question, when you have the Synology stuff, do you leave the equipment on all the time?
I do.
I do also.
So do I.
They've got very good firewall protection, and you can choose when and if you want to make it available external to your home over the internet. And Synology themselves has a number of applications that makes it harder for somebody to try to crash through your firewall and your own local area network.
You know, crashing through your firewall and your local area network wouldn't be any different on your own PC as opposed to a NAV. So it really, if you feel safe within your firewall on your computer, then your NAS should be fine as well, as long as you don't expose it to the internet.
Okay, that was pretty well the same type of conclusion that other people came to as well. So basically setting up a network would be too much trouble. Okay.
So let us know when you get it all set up. And which way you chose to do it. But you still have your hand up. You have more to say?
Oh, no, my hand was up to answer the last question, the Synology thing.
George.
I stepped away for a minute, but maybe you answer, maybe somebody answered, but really, I'm at the point where I'm saying we should not be installing our own network file servers. We should be relying on companies like Google and other file servers in the internet who do a much better job of backing up our device, our documents than we'll ever do. And you can get to them from any computer, right? Did anybody say that already?
Mm-mm.
No, I didn't say that, but I agree with you. That's what I'm doing.
It's same here.
There are certain ones of us who don't want to have our files on the net.
And I'm one of them.
Understand. But it's just an alternative.
Two views.
That's why this is Windows.
Absolutely. Linux, Windows, Mac, Windows. We all have our biases. I've got then 2 members in my group who don't like the cloud. That's interesting to know.
I guess there's another comment I got, and I've been telling people don't mix your universes. If you're mainly into Windows and Microsoft products, stick with them. And you know, it's unfortunate they don't have a phone, but apart from that, that's the only piece that's missing. If you're into Gmail and Google, stick with that and buy Android devices. And if you're into Apple, stick with that and buy Apple devices. You must be richer than me, but you know, go ahead. So I do think there's a benefit to sticking in one universe. I'd like to hear the comment as to whether other people think there's no need to not mix universes.
Well, I use both Windows and Android. Actually, my new phone is coming on Friday. I just found out today. My Pixel 6.
Oh, cool.
Well, George, I'm using both Apple and Windows and Android, but I use a common software. It's like I can access all my file, like I have OneDrive on all my devices. So that's my common denominator. So I can use my Apple device because I have a couple of iPads that I use, and I have an Android phone, and I have, of course, my Windows computers. But the common denominator there is OneDrive. So if I want to get to a file or a folder on any one of those devices, that's where I go to. So I can be cross-platform. I don't have an issue with that.
Okay, thanks.
Bill, so nobody, or you don't have any kind of problems when you're on an Apple interfacing with Google products?
No, no problem whatsoever. The only thing you have to be conscious of course, is how they operate differently. It's like when I want to do a cut and paste on my iPad, that's a total different technique. I just have to keep in mind that this is what I need to do. And you access the files a little bit different if you're going to copy and paste them, but you still adjust to that.
Gary.
Yeah, I'm one of the suggestions was for backup again, was to use the Windows backup. I've got Windows 10, I'm in settings and I click on backup and I chose my external drive to see. So that's that was taken. But then what do I do next? If I click on more options, I just get a blank window.
I think Bob G mentioned a Windows 7 backup and access it through
Correct.
the control panel.
Windows 7 backup and restore, and the easiest way to get to it is through control panel.
I think he's there, Bob, but the problem is that usually when you plug in your external drive, it'll go ahead and recognize it and you don't have to do anything else.
Yeah.
Well, you still have to set it up.
Yeah, I want to choose full back or incremental or files or something, but I'm just here at this
image.
Well, but I don't see an option for that. I don't get
Are you in the Windows 7 or are you in the backup, which is just a file backup, which is part of Windows 10?
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, that's using file history. Okay, so then, but then below that it says go to backup and restore Windows 7, and that's what you're talking about.
That's the one you want. Yep.
And is that then I download something? I'm clicking on it now.
No.
That's it. It's been
It'll
part of
open.
the OS for 1,000 years.
Yep. Well, since Windows 7,
Well, that's
almost 1,000 years.
Almost.
Yes.
Okay, I'll fill it with that then. Okay, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. I wasn't sure what the heck was going on.
Well, my question is, why isn't there a newer version of that Windows 7 backup, since we've gone from 7 to Vista to 8 to 10 now to 11? Why?
Because Windows has always said, we're going to do away with this. They were supposed to do away with this in Windows 10, but it's still working perfectly in Windows 11, just like they were going to do away with the control panel. The control panel is still there in Windows 11, works like a charm. Lots of things are easier to get through, and lots of things, if you go through the normal settings, send you back to the control panel. So,
But my question would be, does Windows 10 version let you do an image backup or just files?
Windows 10 itself does simply file backup.
Okay, so why isn't Windows 10 and 11 have the capability of doing an image backup like Windows 7 could do way back a gazillion years?
They do. You just have to use that program, which has been around since Windows 7.
Well,
and it's still there.
It's a legacy program that people like.
Right, but why hasn't Microsoft improved it and made it a part of the Windows 10 ecosystem?
Contact Microsoft. Maybe they'll give you an answer, because they sure aren't giving the rest of us any answers.
Well, they're not going
And I totally agree with you, John. They could have incorporated that directly into 10 and everybody would have applauded and said, now I don't have to think about going to someplace else. But sometimes they're not too practical, I don't think, when they think about things like that. Oh, look at it.
And besides, if they had done that, nobody would be looking at my video that shows you exactly how to do that.
They just renamed it, but they didn't.
Yeah, they could. That's good, Bob.
And if you need Windows 7, there's a guy in Canada I know who can, sell it to you cheap.
And Cal's looking around going, you talking about me?
Who's that? Anyway, Bob, would you talk about your videos and talk about your blog?
Yes, I have both of those.
No, I mean, if you put the information in the chat box,
I can do that.
Oh, come on. Do you have everything since the beginning of time? They don't get rid of stuff in Canada, I guess. Anyway, because if you would put both of those in the, again, chat box, everybody will get a link to your stuff.
Will do.
He posts videos on a daily basis about if you want to know what's going on with Windows 11, he's got it right there. If they come up with the glitch, He tells you about it. And then he also talks about security. And every time he gives a presentation to a group, and he gave at least 30 in October during Cybersecurity Awareness Month, he uploads almost instantly to his blog information about the meeting. He gives your name, a picture of the attendees off the Zoom screen, and it's a good thing for him, but it's publicity for your group. If they subscribe to his Facebook page, then they're going to go, oh, there's a computer club in fill in the blank. Bob just gave a presentation there. Doesn't get paid a dime for it. He's a volunteer just like we are.
Over to George.
Yeah. You're muted.
Yeah, I don't want to monopolize this, but Windows 7 to a Windows 11, do you have to pay for that upgrade?
No.
Or is there still a way that we could do it on Windows 10?
Still do it for free.
Yep.
They will. Okay, that's good. Thank you.
The minute they tried charging for it, the whole world would come unglued.
Well, they did try and it didn't work.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
That's why the specs have moved up. So you have to go out and buy a new one.
Right.
Okay, Cal.
It may please the membership to know that I am still running Windows XP 2019 Enterprise Edition. Because we here in Canada cannot throw anything out.
George, you know, you're in two different places in Canada, but you know,
yeah,
their minds think.
Well, I was traveling in Spain a couple of years ago, and they were running XP in their offices there.
Hey, if it works, whatever. Over to Bernard.
Bob, could you put your website address in the chat program for us all to copy down, please?
He'll put in there what I asked him to, yes. And I'll send it out in the Q&A.
Yeah, you're going to get it in a separate email, Judy.
Thank you.
That'll have all the information.
Super. David.
There was an article not too long ago about a campsite in, I think it was Sweden, that's still using an Atari ST to run all their camping software and their website. So old computers do still work.
JJ, and I like that comment.
Questions? Do we have any questions? Comments?
I'm just going to say yay.
Okay, we have to know, how did you get pictures in your windows?
Photoshop.
Very good.
I've been doing that for years, but this is my group party called Party Up that we get together every other Friday for the last 20-something years.
Yep.
And the guy in the back here is the curator. He passed away about 10 years ago, and the other three members at the top are no longer with us. But other than that, that's our group. And we call ourselves Party Up because we never know how many's going to show up.
Too cool. And he lives in Illinois. Thinking about a Photoshop presentation sometime, a little how to use it and all that good kind of stuff. I'm planting the seed. The rest of you who give presentations to your groups, please get in touch and let us and volunteer to give one. We always have two. And so the whole entire Wednesday workshop isn't on your back. Share it with somebody. And what you're doing is expanding our knowledge on what's out there in the world that, you know, we don't know about and we might want to try. Edward has fixed his mic program, hopefully.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
I'm using a microphone on my camera.
Very
Anyways,
good.
I've been following a lot of forums on the internet. And one of the complaints some people had about going to Windows 11 was home insists on having a Microsoft account. So I always like to have answer a challenge. So I actually installed Windows 11 Home without a Microsoft account. But there's a trick to it. Does anybody want to know the trick?
Yeah.
Okay, when you get to the screen where it says either log into your Microsoft account or create one, I disconnect the internet. In the upper left corner is an arrow. I wait a minute, you hit the back arrow on the installation there, and it asks for me to create a local account. And so after I get done creating a local account, I plug the internet back in and proceed with the installation of Windows 11 Home, and it works fine without a Microsoft account.
Yep. Bob G was nodding yes to everything you said. And yes, you access the Windows 7 backup through the control panel. That was a question in the chat box here.
But when you want to go and get programs and things like that, sorry, I should have put my hand up. You know, not having a Microsoft account, I'm not saying you have to use the email aspect of it or anything else, but I do think for many people, having a Microsoft account when you install your Windows is by far the simplest progress.
Where do you have to, where do you go to get programs that you have to have a Microsoft account?
The Microsoft Store. You can't get into
Store.
it. Oh. You have to have a Microsoft account to use a Microsoft Store.
The reason I got rid of my S was when I went to zoom.us to try to download it, it said I couldn't because I had an S machine. I didn't realize I did. And I immediately got rid of that S because I want to be able to go out to the source and get the programs I want.
But there are many programs.
Not through the Microsoft Store.
Well, the Microsoft Store is the safer place because they're vetted.
All the ones that I use are vetted because I've been using the same things for 1,000 years.
Also, if you want to use the free Office online versions, they want you to log in with a Microsoft account.
Yeah,
that's a true statement.
So I would not want to encourage people in our club to log in with something other than a Microsoft account when they're setting up their new machines.
I'm just being devil's advocate.
But the thing about it that
a Hotmail account for 1,000 years.
I'm not so sure why there is such a pushback on having a Microsoft account, because if you run an Apple machine, you have to have an Apple ID and user ID in order to use those services. So it's no different. I mean, when I have a Samsung account because of my Android phone, I have a Google account. I mean, that's just kind of the way business is working these days. So I don't know what the
Possibly it's the
pushback.
thought of privacy. Microsoft's going to know more about me.
But what about?
Is it okay? Is it okay for Google to know more about you, or Apple, or
Yeah. How
yeah,
true.
that's the same difference.
Same difference, right?
That's the only thing I've been able to ever think of when people say they don't want to have a Microsoft account. Like I said, I've had mine from the beginning of time. The only thing that email address is used for is my Microsoft account, nothing else. Over to Carol.
I think one of the issues is with having a Microsoft account. A lot of people just don't want to have to type it in every time they get into their computer. And I'm talking about people that are seniors who just, they want to be able to turn on their computer and there's the desktop and they can go. They just don't want to have to type in that password every time. And I know you can set up pins and I know you can set up other things, but that tends to be real confusing for
Carol, you don't
a
have
lot
to.
of the people.
You don't have to.
You don't have to. Once you set, there's two different accounts. One is the one that you use to log into your computer, and then there's a Microsoft account. Those are two different entities.
But whenever I've set something up with a Microsoft account, and then I go back to log into the computer, it wants that Microsoft account. So I use a local account to log into the computer. I don't have to, I have a password, but I'm not required to have a password. I have a account called everyone else on my computer for my kids and grandkids to use. It doesn't have a password. They log off from me if I'm logged on, they log onto that, and now they're at the desktop. And if they want to download, or if I on my local account want to go to the Microsoft store, I can tell the store, just use the Microsoft account for this app. Don't use it. Don't convert my account to a Microsoft account.
Exactly, that's the way.
But no, that's not the way. You're confusing two different things. Your log onto your computer is one log on, which has nothing to do with your Microsoft account. You're just logging onto your computer.
That's your local.
No.
I don't log on.
That's just the log on for your computer.
But how do you create that? Because when I set up a new computer, as you know, has been mentioned here, it generally asks you to log on with a Microsoft account. And if you do that, in my experience, that becomes the way that you have to log on every time you start up the computer and want to go to that account.
No.
And I never have to log on to start with my computer. I just turn it on and
if you want to bypass the log on for your computer, there's a setting within Windows that you can do that. And there's a command called netwizplay, NETWIZPL, and that will allow you to turn that log on to your your desktop off, but it has nothing to do with your Microsoft account. That's a totally different entity.
But turning the log on off, which you just mentioned, using that, what if I have multiple accounts on that computer?
Multiple logons?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, it'll turn on. That's the logon for your different people that use the computer. That's just their logon information. They would have their own Microsoft account within that if they're using your computer.
Okay, over to Steve.
Yeah, I've got an ASUS laptop, and they've got a set of utilities and updates and everything else called My ASUS. And the only way you can get it is through the Microsoft Store. So I had to have Microsoft Store on my machine, whether I wanted it or not. That was the only way I was going to get updates and stuff from ASUS.
And Melvin.
Sorry. Okay. What I've found is if you go to using a PIN instead of a password, there's no requirement on length on it. You can put one digit in if you want to, and it'll work. So if you're concerned about that, just set it for one digit. I've set mine for 4. That way, if a member of my family wants to get in, it's easy for them to remember how to do it. But anybody getting into the house that doesn't know us properly would not be able to get into it. It's still enough to take them a while to try to brute force it.
Cal.
I'd like to pose a question. Does anyone use a fingerprint reader? I'd like to do a survey, but I have no privileges.
Only on my iPad and my phone.
I have one computer that has a fingerprint, and I use it to do the sign-in on that computer.
I have an old laptop that's been around for about 10 years. It has a fingerprint scanner on it.
That's 3. Anybody else?
My phone uses face recognition.
Yeah.
My phone, I use the fingerprint. My tablet, I have facial recognition.
4 to 2. Anybody else?
Yeah, I tried to use a Microsoft-made fingerprint reader that I had that I was using back on 7, found out it's not compatible with Windows 10. So I have to replace it to do it.
Yeah, I'm finding a lack of support for them as well. I have one built into a Dell laptop and it's not supported.
I have one built into my HP laptop, and it works for a week or two, and then it stops working, so I quit using it.
Yeah.
Seems like the fingerprint part of it is not that popular. Is that part of the hello business that Microsoft talks about?
Yep.
Yes.
The two-factor authentication, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Which is important, but I always, when I had my laptop, it was always here. I didn't need anything to, stop anybody else from getting into it. There's absolutely nothing on my hard drive that would be of interest to anybody. There's no personal information on it at all. And all of that logging in and all that stuff. So I turned everything off. And this is the first time I haven't been able to get by without using a code of some kind. And my Melvin is also 4 numbers.
My computer automatically starts without anything because I'm the only one in the house that uses the computer.
Yep.
But when I walk away from the computer, I still use the Windows and L key to lock it. That way, if we happen to get company and somebody gets to the keyboard, they won't mess up all the good stuff that I've been working on. And when I come back, I just use Windows and L or move the mouse, and then it'll ask me for my PIN. Because I do have a PIN set up, but I don't use it. I don't need it in order to sign in, but it prevents people from accidentally using my keyboard.
That's exactly how mine is set up.
And I hope everyone understands that we're talking about logons, means of logging onto your desktop or your tablet or whatever, which is totally separate from a Microsoft account. Please do not confuse those two together.
Correct.
Edward.
I usually use the my fingerprint reader on my laptop, but sometimes it gets kind of flaky, doesn't want to recognize my fingerprint. So then I just fall back and use the PIN. On my Samsung S21, I use the fingerprint reader all the time and it works every time.
Well, don't forget that your digital asset manager will need to be getting into your devices and after you're no longer here. So I used to laugh that my digital asset managers, my daughter, who is the whole executor, they, just bring the phone down to wherever I am and go like that. Well, of course, it's cold now, so that's not going to work. That was a standard joke with us. So be aware of things like that when you have your fingerprint reader. You want to be able to have an alternate way for your executor to get into it after you're gone.
Well, at the funeral home, you have them take off your finger so that your executor can get into your computer.
It's cold.
But I think
that's one of my little jokes in my presentation. What can I tell you?
Most of those
on my phone there, that if the phone hasn't been used for about 24 hours, it defaults back to using a PIN. So it also, if I also power it off or power it back on, I have to use a PIN. So all I got to do is have to record the PIN number, so somebody can always get into at some point in the future the PIN.
Don't forget that.
On your Windows desktop, if you're using a fingerprint reader or some other means of getting in there, you'll see some optional sign in. So click that and that will allow you to put in a password. Because the password still works.
Yep. And if your fingerprint reader fails, you are always asked for the alternate sign in.
Do the fingerprint readers, you have to go out and buy them if you have a desktop?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have a laptop, it's just right there in front of your very eyes on your screen, because if you have a touch laptop, but again, if you have just a regular laptop, you also have, it's just another piece of hardware you have to buy.
Yeah.
Mine is built into the keyboard on the laptop.
What kind of laptop?
A Dell.
Oh, I don't have one on my crummy Dell.
Mine's built into the keyboard also, Judy.
Mine's
Okay,
built into
good
my
to know.
keyboard. Mine's built into my keyboard on my Samsung.
Good to know. Any other questions? Any other discussion? No, thank you very much for participating in our Windows Q&A and Acronis and backing up and fingerprint readers and letting it all hang out, so to speak. Don't forget, we are having another one next Wednesday for the Linux folks. And they're going to be talking about, you know, what's your favorite distro, why, which is the one that emulates Windows best, so I can start using that. Because you see, I have access to all of those questions too. And there are a bunch of totally different types of questions than we talked about today. So I know I will be seeing some of you at that meeting, and I have, let's see, in front of my very eyeballs here, I only have 2 people who are going to be question answers, but we have a couple of others that, my gosh, they came to the Windows meeting too. Edward.
I have a couple last comments. Of course, I did a full backup on my Windows 10 computer before I updated it to Windows 11, because you never know, right? And also, one more thing. I read online that it's taking people over 1 to 2 hours to update 10 to 11. So what I did is I downloaded the ISO for Windows 11. Inside Windows 10, I mounted the ISO file, just ran setup on there, and I got it updated to Windows 11 in about 45 minutes. So it's a lot faster than doing this regular, just clicking on update in the Windows update page. So
Yeah, you only downloaded the installation stuff once, because the next time you use the ISO and you didn't have to do any downloads. That cuts the time down immensely, especially if your internet access isn't that great.
The only thing mine on the update, I think it was about 45 minutes for me to update mine.
Yep.
From the just using clicking the update button.
The person who I desperately want to buy a new Windows 10 computer, her download speed was 12 and her upload speed was 1. Need I say more? Spectrum came out and it's a little bit better than that, but her computer's only 4 years old, but it must have been a dog in the first place. And I have my personal fingers crossed that she will pay attention to what I'm saying. Anyway, no more questions. Thank you everybody who participated, our unpaid professional answerers, so to speak, and everybody else that put their 2 cents worth in. We always appreciate the participation because it makes it so much better. And I am looking for Mr. Kennedy, and he let me know that there you are. You're right above I'm sorry, but JJ's Windows just took precedence over yours.
Yeah. I got plain Windows, not Windows S or Windows Super. Or,
right.
Yeah. I would also add on to what Judy says. We would love to have some Apple people host, or I would host it for you to have an Apple group have their questions and answers. So if there are any Apple people in my
listening to you,
listening or in my area can hear me, or Apple people, we would like to do that, but right now we don't have anybody who says they'll take Apple questions and all.
I would be more than happy to nominate Larry Fortner to take part of that. In fact, I was going to ask him if he would be willing to do a thing like that.
Well, good. Well, maybe if we get a few people, we can open up an Apple Away.
I'll help.
Thank you. That's 2 people.
Good.
I'll attend.
I'll host. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, see, look how quick we get 4 people, you guys.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a small question and answer time.
And Cal will be there. But the thing is that's the way you learn. You know, people talk Apple, and Glenn raised his hand. Boy, these Canadian people are volunteering all over the place. Thank you so much. USA people, step up to the plate, please. But that's how we all learn. If somebody has a Apple a question and they think that, you know, we Windows people know everything, we might learn a answer that we could give to something. Is Bob raising his hand too?
Yep.
John, no, John.
Oh.
John, can you contact Kenneth? He would be an excellent addition to the Apple group.
Is that
he has
If
no
he has the
available
time.
time. Nope,
Ah.
no, he's luckily if he has an evening free.
No, he works full time.
Yeah.
So
But
yeah.
that would be good. Yep.
Yep.
The odds
But
of
I
that.
will keep track of the meeting and SIG announcements I get. Thank you for that idea that you didn't know you gave me that idea, and I'll see who does the Apple stuff out in the world. Okay. Take us away, John.
All right. Thanks so much for making use of your benefits of being a member of a member group to APCUG. And we will be back after Thanksgiving in December with a Linux workshop for sure, maybe even an Apple one. I would like to remind everybody that we're going to start off the year with a fantastic roundtable where, like we did last year and we've done before, where we'll have a chance just to sit around and talk about it's a new year, what's up. And anytime you have ideas, send them to us. Otherwise, I will say have a great afternoon for everybody because we're all after the 12 o'clock time. No, you're not.
No, we're not.
That's right. You early birds.
It's time for breakfast.
Time for breakfast. Hey, the rest of us, it's time for our afternoon naps.